Salena-Hawkins, I thought you were going to read. That's why I came
Well,
by.
I guess you might say in a sense that this is reading.
Oh.
I get back to you later on, Birambao. For those who are familiar with the African Brazilian martial art called capoeira, you will know that this is the Birambao, the cachiche, the kabasha, my stick, and the stick itself. So, having...
And that metal thing there. That metal, the metal thing?
The metal, some people call it capadastro.
Okay.
If you use it in the same way that guitarists would use a plectrum,
Okay.
it has the same thing. Here's what I'm trying to say, briefly.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I see. Okay. Mm-hmm.
So what looks to be, I guess to some people, a very primitive instrument is a very sophisticated instrument, and it has hundreds of years of history behind it. But that's not why I'm here, and that's not why you're here, so let's get to why we're here.
All right.
I'm being very efficient today.
Uh-huh.
It's been that kind of day.
All right, I'm glad to hear.
At our last meeting, I read some stories from Amazing Grace. I think it was 2.
Yes.
And it leads us up to another book of short stories. I like short stories.
Okay.
I believe that I have done readings for this one on a previous broadcast, a previous telecast.
Mm-hmm.
But the response to it was so energizing that I felt they would justify reading some stories or a story from it again. The story that I'm going to read comes from the very first story written for this particular book, and it's called Kwanzaa for Conrad. I have to say right off that Conrad was a mentally ill man living on the streets on a specific slash in the sidewalk across the street from the Department of Justice on Spring and what is that street? Spring and Main.
Right, yeah, Main. Well,
yes, and we seldom hear the stories of people who are affected by schizophrenia, and this is one of them. It's a fairly long short story, so I would suggest those who are going to listen to it should fortify themselves with whatever they think they need. For me, it's clear white water. A little sting to it. I think the water might be made by Seagram's, but we'll get to that.
Seagram's water, okay.
The Survival Tango, Kwanzaa for Conrad. Right here in this spot where the sidewalk is split, I lived for 3 long, crazy years. Or was it 4? Sometimes it's hard to remember. A voice told me that I would die if I strayed too far from this spot. It wasn't easy to believe that Emmanuel Conrad, brilliant scholar at a prestigious university, ex-pro football player, quarterback, best-selling author, once lived on a crack in the sidewalk on 4th Avenue, downtown. I looked up at him. That wasn't hard to do. At 6'4", he towered over my 5'8". How long were you out here? After just a couple of days, I was beginning to use the language of the people surrounding us. Hey, Conrad, you ain't out here no more, huh? No, my brother, I ain't out here no more. I was out here for 25 years. You lived on the streets for 25 years? That's right, up till 2 years ago when San Julian broke out. Summertime on Skid Row in downtown Los Angeles. I strolled alongside the big Emmanuel Conrad, feeling less afraid than I had felt for the past 3 nights. Alone, I felt vulnerable, a pale-faced nerd making his way through the garbage, the makeshift cardboard shelters, the tents, the rat that littered the sidewalks. Excuse me, my name is Michael Bronstein. I work for City Beat magazine and I'm looking for Emmanuel Conrad. Get the fuck away from me, I don't know no Emmanuel Conrad. Emmanuel Conrad, he's a writer. They told me I might be able to find him down here. I just told you, I don't know no fucking Conrad. Get the fuck out of my face. Well, if you should happen to see him, here's my card. Ask him to give me a ring. We'd like to do a feature on him for City Beat magazine. The guy I gave the card to, a grizzled relic from some dark horror movie, stared at it as though it was contaminated and then tucked it into one of the layers of his multi-layered rags. What was I supposed to tell my editor? I was assigned to do an interview of a guy who had a bestseller on the LA Times list for the past 6 weeks now and was invisible. Look, this guy is down there on Skid Row somewhere. He can't be invisible. After all, he has a book on the bestseller list. Find him, Bronstein. Interview him. Earn your daily bagel, okay? Shirley Brown, editor. City Beat magazine was not into being nice when she ordered us for it. Find him, Bronstein. Make your family proud of you. Give us the atmosphere, the stench, life on the streets. You know what I'm asking for. We'll make it a part of series for our December, January issue, or maybe the Black History February issue. I haven't decided yet, okay? Honey, I know where Conrad is. What that is, I know where he was yesterday. I stared into the old face of what might have been a young African-American woman. It was twilight, and I was beginning, once again, to feel that I was an outsider. My emotional antenna was up. Was she trying to play me for something? I'd already passed out $200 of City Beat slush fund money to locate the mysterious Mr. Conrad. Okay, lady, where is he? Maybe I was becoming callous, hard. I slipped the $20 bill into a grimy paw and tacked a hard look on my face. Well, mister, like I said, I knew he was, I knew where he was till yesterday. It sounded like a sly plea for more bribe money to me. I took casual note of the disgusted look on the dark horror movie-faced guy as I palmed another $20 into the ancient youth crone's crack cocaine wrinkled face. I've been on Skid Row long enough to recognize that look. So where is he? She did a surprised, surreptitious study of the $20 bill. Damn it, I could have had it for 10. Well, like I said, I knew where he was up to yesterday. I palmed her another 10 spot. Anything to get to the heart of the darkness. Hello? Hello, Miss Brown, City Beat magazine editor. I was going to do whatever was necessary to locate Emmanuel Conrad, best-selling African-American author currently living on Skid Row somewhere. So where is he? I probed deeply. I'm probing deeply. He may be up in here. She pointed to the hotel behind her with her chin. Check the desk. Her hangdog expression certainly warranted more money, but courageously I resisted. You say he's here? No. Like I said, he might have been here since yesterday, but he might be somewhere else now. Damn it. Fooled again. Foiled again. Now what? Nobody at the New Hampshire School of Journalism had ever taught us anything about finding interviewees on Skid Row. I strolled through the tired, funky, tobacco-stained lobby of Mr. Emmanuel Conrad's assumed residence, the Ghetto Sketches Hotel.
Okay.
Mr. Emmanuel Conrad, just a moment, sir. Would you kindly take a seat over there while we locate Mr. Conrad? The desk clerk turned back to fiddle with the remote. I'm thinking out loud, whoa, wait a sec. This has got to be the ultimate Unrealville. Here I am trying to locate a citizen of Skid Row who has just written a best-selling novel, and they put me on hold to deal with the immediate concerns of a jive-ass television show? How do I know it's a jive-ass television show? Well, aren't most of them? I sat in the lobby of the Hotel Ghetto Sketches for an hour before the woman I'd given the latest bribe shuffled in. Conrad outside. Conrad outside, she whispered and held her palm out for another $10. Damn! I meant to break the cycle of bribery and all that, but that didn't seem to be the right time. Well, where is he? I whispered back. Right here, she announced and scurried off. Emmanuel Conrad, brilliant scholar, ex-pro football quarterback, Skid Row habitant, best-selling author, was blocking out the street in back of him. My name is Michael Bronstein. I know I got your card. So, well, I'm from City B. I'm familiar with your fucked up, pseudo-liberal rag mag. What do you want from me? It took a couple of binks to think it out. What did I want from him? City B, Shirley Brown, editor, had simply sent me to locate a best-selling author that no one had interviewed. It was going to be a coup. The whole slant of the thing was resting on my journalistic shoulders. Well, now that you ask, I really can't say what I want from you. My editor said, go interview this guy. So, you here to interview me? Well, hopefully. It'll be about much more than an interview. I don't know what I said. I can't honestly say what triggered our bond. All I can say is that now I was strolling through the Skid Rows that comprise Skid Row and greater Los Angeles with Emmanuel Conrad, the best-selling author of San Julian Street. Mr. Conrad, call me Brother Conrad. Of course, Brother Conrad. Hey, Brother Conrad, you ain't out here no more, huh? No, sister, I ain't out here no more. Conrad, Brother Conrad, how does that make you feel? What? When somebody down here calls out to you, asking you about your current status, he didn't reply. He simply steered me into a restaurant that could have been a role model for a greasy spoon. Let's get something to eat. The fast food taco Chinese place knew him and piled more bad food on 2 trays than I'd ever been exposed to. You don't have to eat this if you don't want to. His suggestion sounded almost apologetic. I took him up on his offer and suffered through a greasy chicken taco. Summertime on Skid Row in downtown Los Angeles. Smells, unforgettable tableaus. I started thinking about a camera, the streets. After a hasty burrito and beans, his choice, and a chicken taco, we strolled in the street again. Suddenly, he waves his right hand on a nebulous goodbye salutation and disappears up a dark alley. Should I follow? 2 days later, I'm back on Skid Row on St. Julian Street looking for Emmanuel Conrad, best-selling author. My name is Michael Bronstein from City Beat magazine. Never been exposed to so many people who could nod in such a negative way. No one knew Conrad, certainly. Michael, we want to put the Emmanuel Conrad thing in our February issue. What's up with that? Shirley, to be honest with you, I think I have a hook. The problem is hooking up with the subject. Well, that's a problem you're going to have to deal with, isn't it, Frank? What's happening with the pedophile thing? Suddenly, while I was back down on Skid Row, my job at stake. That's the way it was. Shirley Brown fired people who couldn't complete their assignments. Emmanuel Conrad? I don't know, Conrad. You want something to help you out? How could a few rat shit pellets of crack cocaine help me out? I found myself faced with an offer that I could easily refuse. He whispered over my shoulder into my ear. They tell me you've been looking for me. I swallowed my last bit of greasy chicken taco and twisted around to face Emmanuel Conrad. I felt angry enough to want to say something very undiplomatic, but his charming smile canceled that vibe out. Yeah, remember the other day you were giving me an interview and suddenly you broke it off and went somewhere? Well, I'm back now, he announced, and signaled for a cup of coffee. Minutes later, we were strolling through Skid Row as though nothing had happened. So what do you want to interview me about? I want to interview about St. Julian Street, your book, about you, your life, all of this. Oh, I didn't know that. I thought I detected a sly smile. It was my turn. Before we get to you, let's go to St. Julian Street. What made you do it? Good question, he said, and strode beside me, not making any other comment. I felt intensely frustrated. It was time to become aggressive. Conrad, look, I have an editor who's a real bitch. You know what I'm saying? If I don't come back with a world-class dynamite interview of the best-selling author, I could lose a few brownie points. Why didn't you say that, Bronstein? I thought I conveyed that impression when we first met. No, you didn't. But ain't no real big thing. Let's walk on over here out to the square. It's a good place to sit and around. Persian Square, I know. Bold pigeons beg for food from the noontime lunch hour crowd. A wide-ranging assortment of diverse human beings hangs out here. Some of them are completely sane. Emmanuel Conrad sprawled on one of the stone benches circling the south and western fringes of the square, all 6'4" of him, covered by clothes that looked as though they had just been snatched out of the dryer at the local laundromat. How could a best-selling author run around in roughed-out clothes? Well, that's what his expression conveyed to me. It was time for me to dig into the core. Okay, Mr. Conrad, let's have it. Who were you? What are you? And what the hell are you planning to become? I'll never forget the outrageous roar of his volcanic laughter. To be completely honest, he scared the crap out of me. Hell, you want to know everything, huh? I nodded numbly. He ignored the first question I put to him and the second one and simply started talking. I thought it was schizoid stuff until I began to listen more closely. His voice was barely louder than the traffic around us. I knew I could work my way through, even though the obstacles seemed insurmountable. Being homeless and schizophrenic are not easy bumps to get over. There were a number of people who thought I wouldn't make it. I followed his intense gaze at a man who had come to sit on the steps about 20 yards in front of us. He was brushing his hair, or rather, he was brushing the bald spots on his head where his hair had been. He had brushed with a heavy hand. Evidently, he had brushed himself into baldness. How long was I on the streets out here? Roughly a quarter of a century, 25 years. Strange as it may seem, I can't recall any one of those years as well as I can recall that 3-year attachment to that section of sidewalk I showed you. It would take weeks to run you through the horrors I experienced during my time out here, but nothing sticks in my mind like those 3 years. You say a voice told you that you would die if you left that spot? He turned to glare at me. Who the fuck told you that? You did the other day. The glare became a charming smile. Yeah, well, it's true. That's the nature of schizophrenia. The voices, the forces that have control of your behavior, the demons, the madness. Both of us followed the shuffling, erratic walk of a man completely covered with grime and grease, pulling a supermarket cart through the square. He could have been an old man or a young man, and if he hadn't had a long, scraggly beard, he might have been a woman. He paused every now and then to carry on an animated conversation with an imaginary companion. Conrad nodded in the man's direction. Yeah. I used to be like him. The person he's talking to now is just as real to him as you are to me. Why is he still there and you're here? Once again, he ignored my question and simply started talking. It was a little disconcerting not to have someone respond to a direct question, but I had to go with the flow. After all, he was giving City Beat an interview. He was saving my job. Of course I had people talk to me about my problems. Some of them were down and out just like me. But for some reason, they seemed to feel that I had a chance to make it. Look, Conrad, they told me, you don't have to be down here. We got an education. You got brains. And then there were those lovely people who worked in the Ray Gun building, the Department of Just Us, right over there on Spring Street. The legal secretary, especially that wonderful little sister who wore the cowboy hats. Damn, what was her name? He paused and stared at the man brushing his bald spots. I felt tempted to pop in and say, well, look, while you're trying to remember this person's name, let me ask you this. But I didn't. Zola, that was her name. Never will forget her. She gave me money, bought me food, gave me encouragement with her upbeat vibe. All of them did, to some extent, but she was special, you know what I'm saying? The question was so unexpected I could only nod. Yes, I know what you're saying. Still hard to believe that they would have come within 50 yards of me the way I stank back then. You stank? I was forced to smile at my own question. I could visualize the look of it in a question and answer format. You stank? Yeah, I stank. You would have stank too if you hadn't had a bath or a shower in years and you were pissing and shitting in your pants. I'm sure I made an ugly face. I couldn't imagine anything that gross. Conrad seemed to be delighted with my reaction. Yeah, that's what I did. I pissed on myself and shitted in my pants for years. You'd be amazed how much shit you can carry around in your pants. I used to stuff my pants cuffs down inside my shoes to keep the crap from falling out. 6:30 p.m. in Pershing Square. The man brushing his bald spot, the man navigating across the square was joined by a dozen other afflicted human beings. Conrad draped his beefy arms across the back of our stone bench and gazed from one to the other. I got the impression from the superior look on his bearded face that he was looking down on them in a superior than thou fashion. Look at him, Michael Bronstein. I was a bit surprised to hear him say my whole name. For some reason, I just simply assumed that he'd forgotten my name. I'm looking, I assured him. Have you ever seen a greater, more courageous collection of human beings in your entire life? In the beginning twilight, I made a careful study of the ball-brushing man, the Pershing Square safari master, the clumps of people sprawled here and there, obviously drugged up, or waiting to be drugged up, the straight-up crazies. Courageous collection of human beings? No, you can't see it. You're too far removed from their reality. You can't possibly begin to imagine what it feels like to try to fight off hallucinations, ghosts, demons, spooks, whatever you want to call them, every hour of every day. Believe me, that takes a lot of courage. Even now, I have to think back on what he said as a definitive moment. For the first time in my life, I was made to understand that courage was not about simply facing a blank sheet of paper or an impatient editor. Conrad stood, did a lazy stretch and casually nodded to me. Come on. It took me a moment to realize, hey, we're going back over to 4th Street. It's getting dark. The shops are closing. I should be at home having a glass of Chablis, talking on the phone, whatever. He strolled, which enabled me to keep up with him. I felt compelled to ask, what made you come in from out here? He smiled down at me and for the first time since I met him, placed a hand-like hand on my left shoulder. Good question, Michael Bronstein. Good question. He didn't say anything for a whole block while his heavy hand waved my shoulder down. Right there, at the corner of 4th and Hill, he stopped and turned to me. It was like a satori. Are you familiar with Zen? I nodded. What else could I do? His question seemed to demand that I say yes. I nodded again. Perhaps it was a satori, that instant intuitive lightning that can strike when you least expect it. There I was in the deepest dark night of my soul, when this light blazed up in my subconsciousness and asked, who are you? Who are you? Who are you? The question demanded an answer, and it was so powerful I could actually recall staggering down the street, almost punk drunk from the hit it made of me. Who are you? That was the question. It took me about 3 days to access the question through all of these layers of stuff on top of me, the madness in my head. Ever been mad, Bronstein? You mean like crazy, mad, nuts? I can't say that I had. Well, take it from me. It's a 10,000-pound bitch. Right there, out here, in the middle of all the madness, my inner self was asking me a question that many, many people who are supposed to be sane would have trouble answering. A couple who looked as though they'd been sleeping, living in puddles of oil, approached. Conrad dug into his pocket and pulled out 2 $1 bills and placed them in each outstretched grimy pan. Quack, he said softly, as though that would explain everything. It was night and I wanted to end this walking interview, but I felt compelled to be diplomatic about it. I glanced at my watch. 8 p.m. I'd give him another half hour. What about drugs? What about what drugs? He had a very hostile way of repeating questions. Drugs, were you into drugs when you were out here? The glare of the fierce expression lapsed to ensure a charming smile. Insanity was my drug, Bronstein. Pure, undistilled insanity. I had some shit going through my skull that was greater than any drug. But that's not what I was talking about. I was talking about my sartorial. I felt a little self-conscious sitting on the curb, but Conrad didn't seem to notice. It was just simply a convenient place to sit and talk. I smelled the trio of marijuana smokers who had sat down 5 yards to our left. They didn't acknowledge our presence. They just simply passed the jumbo joint from one to the other. The smoke was strong. Who are you? Marked my return to this other madness, this so-called sane world. Who are you? I have lots of answers. I was the son of solidly middle-class parents, mother, a school teacher, dad, a career postal employee. They sacrificed to send me to private schools. I got a football scholarship to a prestigious Ivy League college. And that's where I'm going to end that at this point and get back to you a little later on, because I got some